Sometimes you just have to laugh. Sometimes you just have to laugh. Like, it's so desperate. It is so pathetic that you have to laugh. This was always unwise. I think it was always going to end in tears. But let me tell you, Meghan Markle's decision to host a special bonus episode of her flop podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, is going to come back to haunt her. So we thought we'd just finished, right, with Confessions of a Female Founder. We thought that flop mess of a podcast that Meghan used to simply tell us that she didn't have a moon bump and her children were real and her marriage is really happy back to haunt her well and truly. Because Tina Knowles, known as the matriarch, the not altogether sweet mother of Beyonce Knowles, has just managed to roast the fake Duchess on her own show. Surely, to change all her plans and to do another episode of the podcast, it was going to be massive. And then the rumors started, maybe she'd got Beyonce. And you know what? Like, okay, Beyonce's a pop star, but at least she's pretty interesting. And it's mortifying. She tears into As Ever and the failed business plan and the sold out scam jam within 45 minutes. She tears into the fact that Meghan Markle does not have communication with her own family. And listening to the fake Duchess simp her way through this interview, trying to get Tina Knowles on side desperately. Oh my goodness.
We were told that Meghan was done with her podcast. Au contraire, mon frère, she came back. She wasn't done torturing us enough. Today she brings with her Tina Knowles, Beyonce's mom. And I'm going to get into how ridiculous Meghan is.
I'm sort of like, okay, yeah, she doesn't do many interviews. She used to quite like Meghan until Meghan revealed the text message that she apparently sent her in the Netflix series. So I'm like, yeah, okay, Beyonce, not a bad booking. And let's be honest, she has needed a big booking.
Oh, goodness gracious, where to begin? I have so many notes on this one, and I really want to talk about it. So, as mentioned, it was Tina Knowles on this one, Tina Knowles being Beyonce's mom. And as I say every week, I don't particularly like to go in on the guests so much because that's not what I'm here for.
But no, it wasn't Beyonce. She leaked to her favorite magazine, People. The big guest was Beyonce's mum.
Meghan Markle thought she was about to score a major win, a bonus podcast episode, a celebrated guest, and a product that sold out in just 45 minutes. It looked like the perfect narrative for a glowing rebrand. But that shiny moment, it quickly unraveled into what some are now calling Jamgate. The episode in question featured none other than Tina Knowles. Yes, Beyonce's mother. Meghan introduced her with heartfelt admiration, praising her for being a business powerhouse in her 70s. But instead of receiving soft praise or mutual admiration, Meghan found herself slowly but unmistakably getting schooled on her own show. What started as a casual conversation quickly turned into a quiet masterclass, and not the kind Meghan was giving. Tina questioned the entire premise of Meghan's sold-out product drop, calling it not impressive, but frustrating for customers who can't find the product anywhere. That wasn't just a dig at supply chain issues, it was a direct hit on Meghan's entire business approach. And that wasn't the only moment that had people talking. From subtle age-based compliments that came off more like backhanded remarks, to a conversation about family unity that mirrored Meghan's very public estrangements.
It is cringe, it is car crash, and don't worry, I've listened to it, so you don't have to. There are no highlights, there are all lowlights to come, but let's have a laugh. Because actually, this is brilliant.
The podcast quickly transformed from celebratory to slightly uncomfortable. The internet took notice. Headlines poured in. Fans and critics clipped the awkward silences, the nervous laughter, and that unmistakable shift in energy. This wasn't a hate-filled takedown. It was worse for Meghan because it was calm, confident, and matter-of-fact. Tina Knowles didn't raise her voice. She didn't throw insults. She simply showed up, spoke plainly, and in doing so, exposed the cracks in Meghan's carefully built PR wall. But the story doesn't stop there, because what came next? It wasn't just unexpected, it was a little bit brutal. The moment Meghan welcomed Tina Knowles onto the show, things already felt a little off. Meghan opened the conversation by praising Tina for being an entrepreneur in her 70s. She framed it like a jaw-dropping achievement, as if continuing to build something after 70 was shocking. On paper, it sounded like admiration, but in tone, it came off as patronizing. She said things like, "There's something next level about being in your 70s and still building, inventing, and creating." Her voice carried the kind of surprise you'd expect if someone ran a marathon at 90.
And Meghan wants to make the point that Tina Knowles at 70 is just very, very, very old.
The message may have meant well, but it was loaded. Because for someone like Tina Knowles, who's been hustling behind the scenes in fashion and business for decades, that kind of surprise just feels unnecessary. The internet didn't miss it. Listeners pointed out that praising older women should never come with an undertone of, "Wow, you're still doing stuff." It's a tone that, whether intentional or not, suggests that most women should slow down or fade away after a certain age. Tina, to her credit, didn't seem rattled. She smiled, nodded, and moved right along. But her grace only made the moment more noticeable. The contrast between Meghan's praise and Tina's poise was striking. One seemed to perform empowerment, the other simply lived it. Commentators later said this was a classic Meghan moment, trying to spotlight someone else, but somehow putting herself back in the center of it. Even when giving compliments, Meghan's delivery often makes it about her perspective instead of the person she's celebrating. And here's where it got really interesting. That small moment set the tone for the rest of the podcast. Because it wasn't just the age comment that rubbed people the wrong way. As the conversation continued, Tina Knowles would quietly and expertly dismantle the core of Meghan's latest venture. Not with shade.
There's something incredible about a young woman who is willing to roll the dice on herself, be an entrepreneur, and build. Let's say you're in your 20s and you start doing that. Let's say you're in your 30s. Let's say you do that in your 30s and 40s as a working mom and you're trying to figure it out. There is something where I just put my hands up and applaud all of you who are doing the thing. And then there is something that gets a standing ovation.
Not with sarcasm, but with the calm confidence of someone who's been there, done that, and doesn't need to prove it. And the first real hit? It landed when they started talking about that 45-minute jam sellout. This was the moment everything shifted. Meghan proudly brought up how her As Ever product launch sold out in just 45 minutes. She described the effort behind it, the year-long planning, the excitement, the rapid success. On the surface, it sounded like a brag-worthy accomplishment, but Tina Knowles? She wasn't impressed. With calm precision, Tina responded, "Yes, that's amazing, but then what do you do?" And just like that, the tone changed. Tina began to explain the reality of customer experience, how buyers get frustrated when they discover a new product, only to find it's out of stock permanently. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't call anyone out, but her message was crystal clear. Selling out fast doesn't mean you've built a real business. That single statement shattered the narrative Meghan had been building. Because in Tina's world, where her secret hair care line needs to stay stocked, reliable, and consistent for everyday customers.
And that is when you are in your 70s and you say, "I'm still going to build, and I'm still going to invent, and I'm still going to create." That is next level entrepreneurship.
There's no space for artificial scarcity or hype drops. It's not about how fast you can move a few jars. It's about whether people can depend on your brand. Vanity Fair called Meghan's jam strategy annoying from a consumer perspective. And now, here was Tina Knowles, delivering the same message with grace and authority on Meghan's own platform. To make matters worse, Meghan tried to pivot. She introduced the idea of a scarcity mentality, comparing her jam launch to sneaker drops. But even then, Tina didn't budge. She politely reminded Meghan that food and beauty products, things families actually use, aren't meant to be exclusive. They're meant to be accessible. You don't want to eat a jam once every 6 months, Tina said. You want it to be on your shelf all the time. And that was the dagger. Not a personal attack, not a takedown, just a simple truth from a woman who's done the work, kept the shelves full, and knows how to keep customers coming back. And while Meghan smiled through it, listeners could hear the tension building. Because if Tina was willing to question the business, what else was she willing to challenge? Well, as it turns out, a lot. After gently poking holes in the 45-minute sellout celebration, Tina Knowles took it one step further, and this time, she brought receipts from her own journey. She explained how, in her world, launching a product isn't just about flash, it's about longevity. Her hair care line, Secret, is built to last, literally. The products have a 3-year shelf life, which means customers don't need to panic buy or feel left out. They can trust the brand will be there when they need it. Meghan, still clinging to her scarcity defense, doubled down.
She's just so patronizing, isn't she? So patronizing, just like, very old woman here. We've got an old woman here. And then when Meghan and Tina Knowles start talking, there's a bitch off as to who is the closest friend of Tyler Perry.
She described how planned scarcity could be a marketing strategy, similar to limited sneaker drops or exclusive brand collaborations. But Tina? She wasn't buying it. In the most polite, professional way possible, she explained why that mindset doesn't work for everyone, especially not in food or wellness. You want consistency, she said. People want to rely on the products they love. And that's when it became clear. This wasn't just a business discussion. It was a quiet, respectful reality check. Tina had turned the conversation into a subtle mentorship moment, and Meghan, whether she realized it or not, was being coached in real time. But what made it powerful wasn't just the content. It was the calm confidence Tina brought to every sentence. There was no need to prove anything, no need to compete, just honest advice, grounded in experience. Meanwhile, Meghan kept trying to bring it back to her own brand story. She mentioned all the planning, the packaging, the meaning behind the launch. But the harder she tried to defend it, the more it highlighted how shaky the foundation really was. Because Tina wasn't talking about branding, she was talking about substance. And when Tina casually added, "At least our things are shelf-stable," it wasn't just a statement about product logistics. It was a quiet jab at Meghan's entire strategy. Beautiful on the outside.
Being a mama mogul is not just a title, it's a blueprint for building something that lasts across generations.
But built on limited availability, fragile timelines, and hype instead of sustainability. It was becoming more and more obvious. Tina wasn't here to co-sign the narrative. She was here to speak truth. And next, she delivered a lesson that hit even closer to home. About family. Just when things couldn't get more revealing, the conversation shifted to family. And this was where Tina Knowles truly made her mark. In a soft, reflective moment, Tina shared how much she values staying close with her children, Beyonce and Solange. She admitted that even when they have disagreements, she's always the first to apologize. Her exact words, "I don't want to waste time not being close to my kids." It was heartfelt, grounded, and instantly relatable. But in the context of this podcast, it hit different. Because Tina wasn't just talking about motherhood, she was unknowingly, or maybe knowingly, holding up a mirror to Meghan Markle's own public image. The tension between Meghan and her father, the reported distance with the royal family, the breakdowns that played out in the media.
Here she is.
Hi.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to be sitting down with you.
Oh,
you have
I'm
so
happy
much
to be
amazing
sitting down
stuff.
with you.
Thank you, of course. I'm so glad you reached out. And I love seeing Yvette there. I don't know if I wrote her a letter after I went to Bee's concert a couple years ago. She said the kindest things. And I just wanted her to know how much it meant to me.
All of it suddenly felt uncomfortably relevant. You could hear Meghan try to keep the mood light, mentioning how she dreams of one day going into business with her daughter, Lilibet. It was a sweet thought, but fans couldn't help noticing how it came across more like a hopeful fantasy than a reflection of her current reality. Meanwhile, Tina kept it real. She explained how her priority was never winning an argument or proving a point. It was keeping her family together, staying present, and being emotionally available, even when things got hard. That contrast didn't go unnoticed. Listeners online immediately pointed out the subtext. Meghan, who's often painted as someone who cuts people off when relationships sour, was now sitting across from a woman who made reconciliation her default response. And the timing made it all the more powerful. Meghan didn't acknowledge her own mother, Doria, on Mother's Day earlier this year. She recently admitted that Doria went to Beyonce's concert without even telling her. It's subtle, but the signs of emotional distance are there, and fans picked up on them fast. So when Tina said, It would be wasted time not to be close to my kids. It wasn't just a warm parental quote. It felt like a direct challenge to the way Meghan's handled her own family ties. And that wasn't even the sharpest moment. Because next, Tina touched a nerve that would shake the entire tone of the episode. If there was one moment that left everyone talking...
And Tyler talks about you all. He loves you.
Oh,
Tyler Perry. He's a really good friend of mine.
Yes, well, he's a good friend to have. He's the most
Great friend.
extraordinary soundboard. And even,
Yes.
it's interesting for us to be sitting down talking about business because he is that person that when I have questions about business or...
It was this. In the middle of an honest conversation about life lessons, Tina Knowles dropped a line that stopped Meghan in her tracks. She said, "I have fought very hard not to be bitter, because I don't want any part of it." It was quiet, director, powerful, and it hit harder than any headline ever could. Tina went on to explain that she's been through real struggles, things that could have left her angry or resentful. But instead of holding grudges or staying stuck in pain, she made a conscious choice to let go and move forward. "I choose to look at the good things in my life," she said. Meghan's response? Awkward at best. She nodded, smiled, and then chimed in with a strange deflection. That's easier said than done for a lot of people. The subtext was clear. She wasn't just speaking in general, she was talking about herself. That line gave away more than Meghan probably realized. Because if you followed her story, the media battles, the royal exit, the Netflix documentaries, the Oprah interview, it all boils down to one emotion that seems to fuel the fire: resentment. For years, critics have accused Meghan of holding onto every slight, every headline, every royal...
Just when you feel like you're off your path, like, I need to check in with Tyler.
Yeah. He just finished a book and he wrote me. I mean, it's like poetry. It's so beautiful and uplifting. I'm like, oh God, that's just what I needed today because I'm so exhausted and kind of depleted, so it just lifted me back up.
Cold shoulder. And now, here was a woman, Tina Knowles, sitting across from her, gently offering a completely different path. One that involves grace, forgiveness, and moving on. It wasn't confrontational, it wasn't a lecture, but it exposed a huge difference in worldview. Tina chooses peace. Meghan, it seems, chooses war. And here's where it got even more uncomfortable. Meghan didn't even read Tina's book before the podcast. She admitted it on air, like it was no big deal. The same book that includes the no bitterness quote. The same book that was topping bestseller lists. Meghan didn't come prepared. And that, too, spoke volumes. Because whether it's in business, in family, or in friendship, Tina Knowles shows up ready. She shows up grounded. And in that moment, she wasn't just a guest on Meghan's podcast, she was the example Meghan clearly didn't expect to be compared to. But the most awkward part? That was still to come. If Meghan Markle was trying to position herself as a key part of Beyonce's inner circle, this next exchange might have undone all of that. During a casual chat about Beyonce's tour, Tina Knowles dropped a detail that left Meghan and the internet stunned. She mentioned that on the very first night of the tour, she was joined by Oprah Winfrey, Gayle King, and Tyler Perry for what sounded like a legendary VIP hangout. And Meghan, she wasn't there. The way Tina said it was effortless. She wasn't showing off, she was just sharing a memory. But Meghan's reaction was immediate and revealing. Her voice shifted ever so slightly. She tried to play it cool, saying, "Oh, I bet," and smiled through it. But that smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Because if there's one thing Meghan wants, it's to be in that room with those names. Instead, she was recording a podcast with Beyonce's mom, while the real A-list event, the kind of night that makes headlines, was happening without her. It wasn't just about missing a concert, it was about being left out of the circle she's been trying to align with for years. And let's not forget, this isn't just about fandom. Meghan has often gone out of her way to associate herself with high-powered names. From the Tyler Perry shoutouts to thanking Beyonce for her public support post-royal exit, she's worked hard to stay visible in elite Hollywood circles. But this moment shattered that illusion. Because while Tina casually recalled laughing it up with Oprah and Gayle, Meghan was forced to sit there and react. Not as a co-equal.
So Angela Levin, that sets the tone, right? It sets the tone for what to come. So we've got Meghan clearly absolutely terrified. She's this Beyonce fangirl, really delighted to have Tina Knowles on the podcast. Tina Knowles plugging her hair care brand, not that interested in Meghan.
Not as an insider, but as a fan on the outside looking in. To make it worse, she also revealed that her own mom, Doria, had gone to the concert without telling her. Doria simply attended, enjoyed the show, and let Meghan find out after the fact. That detail alone hinted at some quiet distance, something that fans noticed instantly. In just a few sentences, Tina Knowles unintentionally exposed one of Meghan's biggest insecurities, being left out of the very world she wants to belong to. And when Meghan tried to recover, what came next was even more awkward. By this point in the podcast, Meghan was clearly trying to regain control of the narrative. But instead of shifting the energy, she may have made things even more awkward. It started when Tina Knowles casually mentioned how Beyonce wears wigs often, and how maintaining healthy hair in show business is no small feat. It was a simple comment, no drama, no judgment, but Meghan couldn't let it sit. Instead of building on Tina's point or asking a thoughtful follow-up, Meghan quickly turned the spotlight back to herself. She said that while filming Suits, people told her she should wear wigs to protect her hair, but proudly noted that she never did. She added, "If I had stayed in the industry longer, maybe I would have, but I didn't." On the surface, that sounds fine, but in context, it came across as if she were distancing herself from women who do wear wigs, as if it were a sign of personal resilience or superiority that she didn't. Listeners picked up on the subtext immediately. Why bring that up? Why make it a point to say you never wore wigs, right after Tina praised Beyonce's hair care and her use of wigs? It felt like an unnecessary flex, one that left Tina visibly unfazed, but slightly uncomfortable. But Meghan wasn't done. Moments later, Tina coughed from allergies. A totally normal human moment, but Meghan used it to insert yet another story about how her family keeps bees. Not just casually mentioning it, but going into full detail.
A lot more, shall I say, difficult stuff is to come, but it's a very odd interaction, isn't it? Given, shouldn't Meghan, as a former member of the royal family, not be so interested by a D-list celebrity who's the mother of Beyonce, but really her claim to fame before that was owning a hair salon?
Archie's beekeeper suit, the homemade honey, how she once gave some to a classmate's mom because it helps with allergies. Tina politely thanked her, but the moment was so over the top that it bordered on performative. It felt less like a conversation and more like Meghan trying to prove she's the most thoughtful, most health conscious, most everything. Online, fans dubbed this Bee-gate, yet another example of Meghan making every conversation circle back to herself. Even when Tina was speaking, Meghan seemed more focused on her own anecdotes than truly listening. And all of this, the wigs, the honey, the awkward humble brags, led into Meghan's final attempt to patch everything up with one last image of perfection. Sensing the tension, Meghan made one final pivot, trying to wrap the episode on a high note. She casually dropped, "We have a date night tonight," referring to her and Prince Harry as if to say, "See? Everything's good here." But by then, the tone had already shifted. The audience wasn't buying the fairy tale. After a full episode of subtle corrections, unreciprocated praise, and quiet redirections, it felt like damage control in real time. A picture-perfect ending, masking the cracks that Tina Knowles had calmly but thoroughly exposed. In just one conversation, Tina Knowles delivered what no headline ever could: a quiet dismantling of Meghan Markle's carefully curated narrative. From business blunders and social circles to deeper themes of forgiveness and family, Tina didn't criticize. She simply spoke truth. And that, more than any public fallout, may be the most uncomfortable moment Meghan has ever faced. Because when Beyonce's mom becomes the most grounded voice in the room, you realize this wasn't a podcast. It was a lesson.